Alright guys, so we're back in the garage again tonight, and it has been a few weeks. Actually, I was away and whatnot, but anyhow, we tried a bunch of your theories, and actually the comments we got on the last video were fantastic, right? There was a lot of suggestions, lots of what about this, what about that. So we went through and we did test most of those. We're not boring you guys with all the details, but we'll give you a bit of info of the test. So one of the tests was with the other harness we had for the engine. We rigged up basically 2 wire leads off a connector for our fuel injector, right? So we connected that, gave it a little zap of 12 volts, and all 4 injectors clicked on and off, no problem. So the injectors aren't stuck, the injectors are working. So that eliminated, obviously, removing them from the car. So next we thought we would check, okay, well, let's double check our spark, right? So, excuse me. So we wanted to double check our spark. We had originally just done it on the 2 easies. Front 2, pull out easy. We checked both sides. We're like, yeah, no problem. We got spark. However, we never checked our back 2, right? So we went through again, double checked all 4, and sure enough, we're missing 2, right? The back 2 aren't firing, no spark whatsoever. So we're like, oh man, it must be the coil, right? Why not? So pulled the coil off, went through the Subaru manual, found a way that we could do a bunch of ohm testing, test our coil out. Turns out our coil is fine. It's within factory specs, all the ohm measurements checked out. So we're like, man, what could it possibly be? Again, we went back to the YouTube comments and people kept talking about check your sprockets, check your gears. So lo and behold, what we checked out is our cam gear and our crankshaft sprocket. So you can see here, these are the ones that were on the car. So this one obviously has tons of teeth, and this one goes on our cam. We have 2. So as these spin, now that the whole engine's open, you can see here's where you're getting your pulse from the magnet, right? So we're getting our pulse, and this gear was what was on there with all the teeth. And then this gear actually only has 6 teeth. So when we compared what our CPU or our ECU should have, this was the model of the gear that was coming up, the one with the 6 teeth, not all these teeth. So now, thinking back to some of our previous tests, well, this makes a lot of sense, right? If every one of these teeth is giving us a pulse to inject fuel, that's why, like, when we had the light on, it was blinking like insanely fast. That's why maybe it's constantly injecting fuel, and like every pulse is injecting fuel instead of the 5 times. So we believe we're on to something. That was obviously some YouTube comments led us there. Thanks for your help. I'm thanking you. I hope it starts. We haven't tried to fire it up yet, but I have replaced the gears. We've set up the timing belt. So you can see, if you take a look, our notches line up, our notch lines up, and our notch lines up. So the timing belt has been set. The new gears are both installed. I have to put our pulley back on and torque this. All right, so I mentioned putting on our crankshaft pulley, but I didn't suggest how I was doing it. So anyhow, pick this up off of Amazon, pretty cheap little tool, handy tool, and it's got the 2 different thread patterns, obviously for different years, the Subarus, for the gear. So obviously the 4 bolts go in, you lock that on. Sean was holding one side, I was torquing the other side to 130, get that nice and tight, and pretty nifty little tool. There was different ways on YouTube how to go about doing it. Some guys were using the starter and putting a Johnson bar against the ground and stuff. The luck I'm having, I would have screwed up my starter or something disastrous would have happened. I relied on this and Sean. So we've got that torqued on. I'm gonna turn the engine over and just make sure that everything is still lined up, that my timing lines line up when I come around. Now the belt lines won't line up again with my next turn. It's some crazy number, like every 7,500 times or something that those paint marks will actually line up perfectly again. But I'll go with the notches, right? So I'll make sure my notches line up. And when I'm turning it over, my tensioner will, well, adjust and give me some tension because I've reinstalled that. So I'm gonna go over and turn it by hand a few times. And then we are going to double check for spark on all four cylinders and hopefully fire it up and hear this thing run once and for all. So I gotta go around again. Okay, so I'm getting lined up. I went just a hair past, but line checks out, line checks out, and line checks out. So we're good. We're going to double check for spark. So we'll put the camera down. I'm going to turn it over. Sean's going to just hold it against the frame. We're going to look for spark on all four. If we've got that, our new gears are working as they should. They're working with the computer. They're telling it when to fire, and we're getting fire on all four. Then we'll put the plugs in, fire it up, and listen to this thing once and for all. All right, so we checked the spark. I actually shocked Sean, which is pretty amazing. But anyhow, we do have spark on all four, so we're gonna give it a try. I'm gonna fire it off here. Just double checking, we don't have that green connector. And we did just double check. We had pulled the fuel relay, but we just put the fuel relay back on. So we should, hopefully it goes. This is sounding much better. Okay, maybe I'll jump in so I can give it some gas too. The exhaust is hot. Alright, so success, it is running. The idle was rough for a while, but the ECU needed to, I guess, readjust, recalculate. It went through, we've had it idling for about 10 minutes now. Idling perfectly smooth, couldn't be happier. Now we got a whole lot of cleaning and buttoning up, but we're going to continue on with that. Sheet runs. Thanks YouTube for all your help. The gears changed everything. Couldn't be happier. We'll be on the road this summer. Thanks a lot.